truth that we were about to learn was that, in fact, we weren't tough kids at all. In reality, we were fairly sheltered, comfortably angst-ridden suburban teenagers, and we had no idea what tough was all about. We lived in the early 90s, during a time when youthful violence still had the ability to shock. Even in the homicide capital of the country, there was nothing that felt commonplace about violence. Nothing normal about the metal detectors they began installing in our schools in an effort to quell that violence. We were still several years naive of Columbine and the kind of terror that a tragedy of that magnitude can inspire. As my family bumped our blue van westward through the heartland of America, we imagined we were leaving urban dangers behind us in the East. We never dreamed of the kind of brutality we were about to encounter, the kind of tragedy that would destroy our lives in a single night. DC had not prepared us for anything. Nothing could prepare us for this. My name is Jeanine Cummins, but I've been called Tink since the day I was born, so that's the name that will appear in the following pages. This book is the true story of a violent crime. And it's the story of my family. By its very nature, it is both a true crime and a memoir. I have spent countless hours researching the facts, the evidence, the transcripts, the court documents, the media coverage, and the testimony that make up the library of data for this case. And I have made every possible effort to be fair in my portrayal of those facts. But I don't pretend for a moment to be unbiased. This is my family. There are victims' voices in this story that have been overlooked and overshadowed by louder, more sensational voices for more than a decade. Now it's our turn. Julie and Robin Kerry are my cousins. Tom Cummins is my brother. This is their story. Chapter 1. The rickety card table was so heaped with plates and elbows that Tom Cummins was almost afraid to lift his fork and feed himself, afraid that even this slightest movement might threaten to upend the carefully arranged scene. On his right sat the dainty figure of his cousin, Julie Kerry, who was devouring her steaming plate of chicken stir-fry without a single thought toward the sturdiness of the quivering table. On his left, his two younger sisters, Tink and Kathy, shared their grandfather's organ bench and kicked each other repeatedly under the table, vying for precious knee room. Beside them, Julie's sister Robin was dwarfed in a large blue velvet recliner, and their younger sister Jamie was perched like a bird on the chair's arm. All five of the girls tucked into their plates with a vigor that threatened the trembling little table with every bite, but only Tom seemed concerned. There was plenty of room at the dining room table for a couple of them to have eaten with the grown-ups, but nobody wanted to be left out of the fun at the kids' table, so they sacrificed elbow room and crowded in together. The six cousins were unusually quiet, maybe because of the good food they were eating, maybe because of the inhibiting presence of parents and grandparents in the adjoining room. More likely, though, their six minds were sharing a faint, unspoken melancholy at the thought of their imminent parting. They all knew that in 12 hours, the Cummins siblings would be packed into their parents' van and rolling eastward back to Washington, D.C., leaving St. Louis and their Kerry cousins behind. 9-year-old Jamie had finished picking all the chicken out of her stir-fry and was listlessly shoveling snow peas and broccoli around with her fork. She eyed Robin's plate and waited patiently. When Robin finished scarfing down all her veggies, she switched her plate full of chicken with Jamie's vegetables, and the two sisters resumed eating. Tink and Kathy stifled a giggle at this exchange. Jamie and Robin's meat and veggie swap still hadn't lost its novelty to them. It was the kind of behavior that their own strict parents would never have allowed, and as such, it had that air of the forbidden that teenagers seem to find so funny. 19-year-old Robin was a strict vegetarian. Jamie hated vegetables, so the sisters had developed this foolproof